Everybody, welcome to my channel, Be Free Now with Maria. My professional background is in psychotherapy, and I created this channel with the hopes of helping you experience some form of emotional freedom. This channel is not intended to give you psychological advice, but rather to help you expand your perception by helping you become more aware of your beliefs, thoughts, and feelings. The mind is fascinating, and through psychology, we're able to make connections, become more self aware, reprocess trauma, and change old patterns. This is helpful stuff. However, I believe that there's a spiritual element to life, and that when we leave this part out of the equation, we are left spinning our wheels. And when we incorporate a divine belief, a deeper shift happens. Therefore, I like to process life through cognitive awareness and a spiritual perspective. With that said, today I want to ask, why is it that we want other people to change? Right? Why do we want other people to change so much? Well, we want them to change because we believe that if they change, things will be better in some way, right? And subconsciously, we're looking for relief. In other words, we don't want to have that challenge or that negative experience and so forth. So we want relief from it, and in our psyche, it's easier if just somebody would just change. In other words, if they just stop doing this, if they just stop saying this, and so forth, right, then things will be better. But the reality is that even if somebody changes, things aren't necessarily going to be 100% better. In other words, yes, it's nicer if somebody, let's say, wasn't being so kind with their words and now they're being kinder with their words. It's nicer, but ultimately, it's not necessarily going to make us, feel so good inside that now we're going to feel like, oh, super amazing because they changed. No, in order for us to feel super amazing, something has to change within us, right? And that begins with a belief. Let's start with this belief that we're talking about right now, right? Which is that if they change, things will be better. And let's shift that to, no, that I have to be the change, right? What's that saying now? I'm thinking about be the change you wish to see, right? Be the change we wish to see. And the reason why that's so important is because if you want something, then you got to give it. In other words, if you want more peace, then you have to show up with more peace. You want more happiness, then you have to show up with that. Because what happens is if we show up tends to a situation, in other words, we're stressed out, we show up, we get cranky with our words, we get a little sassy and so forth. And then the next thing we know, right, somebody is defensive and looking at us in a certain way, saying something to us that then makes us feel even more stressed or more tense and so forth, and makes us more reactive. And we create a dynamic that doesn't feel good to us. So when we show up in peace, then the opposite happens, right? We show up with joy. It doesn't mean that somebody isn't going to, not be in good space and receive you with open arms. But ultimately, if you're in good space, it doesn't further exacerbate the situation. And if you're in good space, chances are you're going to be received with in a good way as well. In other words, you show up with peace, peace is given back to you. And if it's not, people are able to also see that, hey, you're not really trying to go there. So they start to soften up and pull back as well. And that changes the dynamic. So if we want relief, right, from the situation, whatever the situation is, we have to take a look at ourselves, and we want to be that change. Because when we change the way we are thinking and the way we're doing things, then the way we feel changes, right? And if we want to feel good and we want to feel happy, we have to then work on changing that. In order to increase a good feeling, a more hopeful feeling, we have to bring something to the table. And it does start with changing some of the things that we're doing. And in order to start changing some of the things that we're doing, we have to start changing some of the beliefs. So that's important to look at, right? Because we believe something and then we act from that end. Even from, right, let's take what we're talking about now. In other words, if I believe that somebody needs to change in order for things to be better for me, then I'm going to feel powerless because they have to change in order for things to be better for me. And I'm going to feel stuck because unless they change, I can't be free. I can't feel good. Well, that's a problem. And it's not even 100% true. I don't need them to change. I need to change. In other words, if I'm in a situation where I feel that someone is being aggressive towards me, then I need to change. How I'm approaching the situation, how I'm thinking about it, and maybe I need to pull back also. It depends. But something has to change within myself because I'm subjecting myself to something that doesn't feel good. I'm aligning myself with something. I'm bringing myself to that space. And I'm also taking it in a way, right, that's making me feel yucky inside. Or it's making me feel powerless, and that's not a good feeling. So something has to change. And the change always starts with us. We have power over ourselves, not over other people. We get to make choices for ourselves that can change the way we feel and the way we show up, meaning the way we act. And we don't have that power over other people. So we want to shift the attention to where we do have the power, and that's within ourselves. And we want to honor the reciprocity, right, of life, meaning that what we give is what we get, right? And if we want something, then we want to give it. If we want more love, then we got to be more loving. And if we're having a hard time with that, then we want to explore why we're having a hard time being more loving, why we're having a hard time, showing up with kinder words and so forth. No judgments. We all go through our moments, right? But we want to notice it and explore it if it needs to be explored. In other words, if it keeps on happening and it's something that isn't feeling good to you, then you definitely want to explore it because you want to understand it more so that then you can change it, right? If we don't understand it, we can't really change it. And if we don't even acknowledge it, then we definitely can't even begin to change it, right? Because if there's nothing wrong and we're not doing anything, then what is there to fix, right? So then we're left with, there's nothing for us to fix. It's dumb, but that keeps us in a space that we don't want to be in, and we have the power to make a shift. So that's something that we want to, consider. And we want to change the way we're thinking about the situation. We want to change the way we're thinking about ourselves, and we want to incorporate a more expansive view about ourselves as well, right? So if we see ourselves as these helpless individuals that are powerless, then we're going to feel stuck. We can't move forward with that belief. But if we see ourselves as changeable beings, right, meaning that while in these bodies we're constantly changing, and that we can create change by the things that we do and by the way we think, then we are opening ourselves up to a more expansive view about ourselves. And if we incorporate a divine belief about ourselves, then we expand ourselves even more, because now we're not just little selves, right? We are a divine, we have a divine part of us and a divine connection with something bigger, right, and greater than our five senses. And so now we're not as these small little beings, we are more expansive, right? And we have this divine support, this divine love, and this divine energy that lives and breathes through us. So we're not alone. We have support. And then that creates a shift in the way we feel, right? Because if I feel supported, I feel lighter in heart. If I feel like I'm alone, then I feel sad. I feel more down. I feel heavier emotionally. So these beliefs matter as well. So something to think about. But before I end, I want to pick a word from my bag of words and see what else I'm inspired to share with you today. All right, boredom. This word. Again, I've gotten this before. Boredom. Now that's interesting. Boredom is something that we can feel when we are not in alignment with where we really want to be aligned with. In other words, if we are feeling stressed out, it's easier for us to feel bored. If we are feeling more connected, more grounded, then we're not going to feel as bored. We're not going to feel as trapped. We're not going to feel as overwhelmed, right? We're going to feel more inspired, more motivated, and more empowered when we are connected to our, to our higher self, but also connected to the awareness that there's something within us that isn't working, that isn't in alignment with what we want. There's something off that needs to be acknowledged and addressed. And when we're on that path, then we're going to feel less bored because we're feeling empowered. And when we're feeling empowered, we're feeling just better. We're feeling more joyful, we're feeling lighter, and there's no boredom in sight. So I hope that helps you in some way and that it prospers you. May you have a beautiful day. Bye for now.